been having these weird dreams lately. Have you ever had that kind of an experience where, for some reason, for no reason, your dreams are just weird and kind of tragic and alarming and negative and what the hell, right? Well, that's kind of how I'm feeling. I had this dream that my neighbor was killed in a car wreck, and I had this other dream where my car was stolen. So I woke up and I was like, oh my God, thank goodness. Because in your dream, I'm like, what do I do? Will it ever be found? How will I afford a new car? Will my insurance cover it? Will my insurance premiums go up? Do I just buy an old shit box? And and I mean, it was just one of those I have logistical dreams where things kind of go wrong and I can't figure them out. One of the classics is when I'm on the air. I have this recurring dream. I'm on the radio, and all the buttons, the knobs, the fader knobs on the mixer board are broken off. So I need to change volumes, turn things on and off, and I'm unable to because the buttons are broken. It's just weird. Natalie says it's because I want control. Or I don't like being out of control. Do your dreams reflect where you are personally? They say dreams can mean things. I tend to think that dreams are part of the blender of the brain. Maybe they reflect your attitude. Maybe they reflect, I don't know, things you are obsessed with, thinking about, affected by. I don't glean a whole lot of deeper meaning from dreams. But, maybe it echoes back, it pings back to us certain things about us. I've also heard this, I sure would like to know if it's true, that if you have a problem and you're thinking about how to solve the problem right before you go to bed, that your brain continues to try to work it out, and sometimes the next day you wake up and you figure it out. Now, that sounds kind of bullshitty to me. Or maybe there's something to it. Does the brain actually problem solve when you're sleeping? I have many questions. Anyway, as we wait for you to dial in with whatever it is that is on your mind today, I had we were talking about recent events. Trump makes it impossible not to talk about them. Some people get pissed that I get political, and those people can go somewhere else if they want. Have a nice day. So Natalie was, I think, speaking on her Facebook page about this video, this interview that Stacey Abrams had done about how authoritarians operate, the totalitarian dictator playbook. And she went through, I think it was 9 or 10 points. They're really good.
Okay, so this happens in every nation that has become an autocracy, having been a democracy. So whether we're talking about Brazil with Bolsonaro, or India, or Putin and Russia, the Philippines with Duterte. So start with winning an election. Mm-hmm. Usually the last one you're going to get to have for real. Number 2, you have an expansion of executive power. The president decides he wants more than he's supposed to have. Number 3, you start to make the Congress complicit. So you weaken them and you neutralize or neuter the judiciary. Like, the Supreme Court is giving you unfettered power and saying we don't have the ability to stop things. Then you move on to firing all of the people who know how to make government work. Mm-hmm. So you gut the civil service. And you do that because you want to break democracy so people forget the stuff that used to get done. So you can't get your Social Security check. So the CDC doesn't know what diseases are anymore. Mm-hmm. Then you put in place these loyalists, people who are only responsive to you. You put them in charge of the FBI so they go after your enemies. You put them in charge of the Department of Justice, the Department of Defense, so they can signal to their friends and tell them all about the evil plans that you have. Then you make certain that you break how we communicate. So you criticize the media and you create your own echo chamber of propaganda. You call it truth, even though you know you're lying. Then you go to the next step, and I call that step 7. So at step 7, you have to blame someone. You have to blame people for the broken government, for the broken promises. So you go after DEI. You go after the vulnerable, the dispossessed. You go after any community that doesn't look like what you think power should be. While you're doing that, you make certain that in step 8, you eliminate anybody who can help them. So you sue law firms that do pro bono cases. You go after philanthropies and accuse them of giving money to the wrong people. You go after colleges and universities that can teach people possibly what else they should know. You get to step 9 and you start to encourage and incentivize private violence. You send the US Marines into spaces they should not be. You send the National Guard in. You kidnap people off of the streets and pretend that's normal, because that's how you quiet dissent, because you make everyone afraid that if they don't do what you want, they might be next. And once you've done those 9 steps, step 10 is easy. That's when you decide there won't be new elections, because everyone's either afraid, poor, broken, or complicit.
Okay. Wow. Well,
that is really good. By the way, Stacey Abrams, in case you're curious, was a former Georgia state representative. She is a humanist, a human rights activist, and I am a fan. So she lays out the classic authoritarian playbook. And we've seen this throughout our history. And my wife posted the video and said, how in the world can anyone support this? Because it's happening all around us. How do you not see this? She's a woman of conviction. She's grieved about what's been going on. And somebody, I don't know, inner circle pops in, and all they say is TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome. That's it. There's not an argument. There's nothing about, in fact, she never even mentioned Trump, although we know that's who she's talking about. But his response isn't to say this is not happening, and here's why, and here's the evidence, and here's all this other stuff. His response was TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome. So I went and I posted, I said, I have been accused of having TDS. Of course, this must be true. It's not like Donald Trump has a history of messianic claims, anointing himself the chosen one. It's not like he claimed he was the only savior who could fix America. It's not like he had the official White House social media account publish monarchical images of Trump as golden idol and crowned king. And of course, I had to post the actual I alone can fix it from the 2016 Republican National Convention. Donald Trump saying in his own words, I am the chosen one, and the official White House account postings of Donald Trump's crowned head in front of Manhattan with the words, long live the king, and this bizarre AI-generated image of his golden statue over Gaza. And then, because I can't do it straight, I said, while you're considering this, folks, make sure and stop by the official Trump store, where, no kidding, you can pick up Trump-branded and often president-themed beverage buckets, hats, hoodies, pickleball paddles, perfumes, belts, golf club covers, whiskey, koozies, dog bowls, serving trays, bow ties, keychains, handbags, collectible coins, diffusers, mugs, flasks, tree ornaments, blankets, towels, coasters, doormats, candles, books, slippers, flags, cheese boards, corkscrews, pillows, teddy bears, candles, pajamas, umbrellas, cheese knives, necklaces, ice trays, and more. Don't ever let pearl-clutching MAGAs gripe about Hunter Biden and conflict of interest. The Trump family has turned the White House into a cash register. And this is very much true. And for those who aren't familiar with the whole Hunter Biden argument, Hunter Biden, the son of President Joe Biden, Republicans went crazy after this guy because he took a board seat on a Ukrainian gas company called Burisma, and he held that board seat from 2014 to 2019 in exchange for influence in the U.S.-Ukraine's policy decision. This was the accusation that was made by MAGA. Total conflict of interest. He's on the board of this gas company, and he's calling in favors, and he's filling his pockets. And this is atrocious. It's un-American. It's treason. And then we turn around, and it's just the grift of the century. I mean, we've never seen anything like this. And so I thought, okay, fine. I listed all the shit that I listed in the Facebook post, but what's really on the Trump store? And I visited the Trump store so you don't have to. Allow me just to pull this up. And don't tell me that I'm giving him free publicity so that he can make sales, because ain't nobody in this audience going to go and buy the shit that he's got for sale. This is just for our amusement. The Trump store has this lovely collection of, I don't know what those are. They beach bags, and there are scarves. Everything has Trump's name emblazoned on it. It says, experience the world of Trump. Homepage has a Trump Yeti beverage bucket, beach tennis set, You've got a Mar-a-Lago umbrella, row hat, a pearl necklace with 45 and 47 in pearls. Let's take a closer look at that. It just looks like shit. Looks like the kind of thing you'd buy at a really bad souvenir stand. We've got the canvas totes. Oh, look, everything's proudly made in America. You want to bet? Do we really think this stuff's all made in America? There's the summer collection. There's the social club collection. There's a ton of golf stuff because obviously Trump is a premier golfer. Have you seen those videos where he's shanking the ball off into the weeds and the trees? Nobody cares. He's on the putting green and he just sort of pats the ball, just kind of bats it like a cat is batting a cat toy until the ball happens to fall in the hole, and then he gives himself a 3. There's a video of him on the tee box. He grabs his driver and he swings as hard as he can at this ball on the tee. He doesn't make contact, but he just takes his club and walks off as if he hit a 250-yard drive, and nobody says anything. It's the total emperor has no clothes thing. Everybody's afraid to say it. They're like, well, he's my golden ticket. So if he whiffs it, I still look down the fairway and say, wow, nice drive, big power, straight line, you so talented. And then you cash your check. This is what these people are. Home and Spa Goods by Donald Trump. We've got stadium cups, pet bowls. Imagine your dog or cat eating and drinking out of a bowl. It's got Trump's name on it. A beer bucket, Trump drinking straws with his name. You gotta be shitting me. What? Look, Trump's name is on the straw. You know, when I suck Trump. I'm sorry, I can't not say that out loud. Serving trays, we've got a dog, bow tie, flag ornaments. Of course, we've got the victory silver coin, and we know he's talking about a 2020 victory because he's delusional or just a fucking liar. Diffusers. Trump scents. That's right. When your house feels a funk, nothing fragrances the air like Trump diffusers. The sweet aroma of old nasty shoe lifts and rotting mango. It fills the house, certainly fills the nose. It's lovely stuff. 45-47 mugs. I mean, Jesus. Save America. Of course, he's got the picture on the cover where he had supposedly dodged the bullet, and I still struggle. I'm not a conspiracy guy. I still struggle with the idea that this guy got clipped by an AR-15 bullet and his ear healed in a day, and now there's no scarring. I mean, I struggle with that. I just struggle with it. But then again, there was a fireman who was killed. So there was a lethal weapon that was fired, but geez, I mean, who gets hit with an assault weapon projectile traveling 3,500 feet per second? And the next day after they wear the tampon on the side of their head for a day, it's fine. It bothers me. It bugs me. I wish time, what is that theory about how time could be traversed like a landscape or a valley or something, where time isn't necessarily just linear, but you could actually go forward and backward through time as if you were walking on terrain. So I'd like to walk through time back to that moment. And of course, I'd like to warn everybody for their own safety. But before I did, as I was walking back, I would like to see the logistics. I want to see where everybody was. I just want a good look. I feel the same way about so many events throughout our history, not just the warnings, but the logistics. After the JFK assassination, everybody was like, it's a big conspiracy. It was kind of a deep state thing instead of just Oswald, because the idea of the lone gunman made no sense to everybody. Well, we could have gone back and proven that. Alas, we cannot. Serving trays, concho totes, jars, jeez. You know what I'm saying? And all the people, look, an airplane ornament of Trump's jet. New and improved, just like the Trump 757 airplane. $110. You know what I'm saying? What's the matter with these people? They're just such hypocrites. Hunter Biden, Hunter Biden, Hunter Biden, Hunter Biden, Hunter Biden. Meanwhile, the guys, back when he and Elon were bosom buddies, he's selling Teslas on the White House lawn. He's such a good businessman. If he can profit from the position, what does it hurt anybody? Hashtag capitalism. Zane had a good point. Did he get hit with glass from the prompter? I think that is a mistake because I had heard the same thing and I looked it up. And I don't think the prompters themselves were shattered. I think the idea was, the claim is that he was grazed with the actual bullet from the gun. But I mean, take any other melon other than his head out to a shooting range, fire an AR-15 at it, graze it slightly, put a tampon on it, come back the next day and tell me how it looks. Well, that's a bad analogy because the body heals and mangoes do not. That's a bad analogy. I'm just saying. Just saying. Seth, your site has a store, you hypocrite. Aha. This is a good point. I do sell merch with a logo, and it does generate income that helps me do what I do. What's the difference? Well, I'm not a silver spoon trust fund baby worth supposedly billions of dollars who has been elected to the highest office in the land and is paid by taxpayer dollars. Using a state-funded, taxpayer-funded public institution to fill my pockets to lie and grift and cheat and harm, I'd like to think there's a distinction between people who say, would you like a mug? Here's a mug. And someone else who says, support your country, be a patriot. I take all major credit cards. By the way, I am using this publicly funded platform to sell my shit. I'd like to think there's a little bit of a difference there. We knew it'd be bad, but we all knew it'd be bad. The Internal Revenue Service has now announced that it's not going to enforce the Johnson Amendment, which was supposed to prevent all 501c3 nonprofit institutions from endorsing political candidates. And we know churches have been violating this law since forever. Well, now it's pretty much official. They defanged the Johnson Amendment, which put that prohibition in place. Now, the other 501c3s that aren't churches, they're not able to endorse anybody, or they risk losing their nonprofit status. Churches? Knock yourself out. And I wonder which candidates those churches are going to be promoting. I swear. And then I have stressful dreams. Weird. Who would like to speak, and on what subject? Because that's all I've got. I'm in a valley. I feel like we need a change. Natalie and I were talking. We're like, how do we get off the hamster wheel? You ever feel that way? You get up in the morning and you see that the world's on fire, and then you get on with your day and you go through your inbox and you meet your deadlines, hopefully, and you do your honeydews and clean up the kitchen. And what do you want for dinner? Let's watch a little TV. 10 o'clock at night. Love you. Alarm goes off the next day. Get up. Take care of your stuff. Go through your inbox. Take care of your honeydews. Clean up a little bit. Grab some dinner. 10 o'clock, go to sleep. But you don't feel inspired to plan anything else. You don't feel like you are mentally charged in a way that makes you proactive to do something different. It's just easier to stay on the wheel. Get up, go to work, go home, go to bed. Get up, go to work, go home, go to bed. And then you add to that the knowledge that all of this is happening and it just gets worse and worse. And we're like, we need to change. What's that look like? Is it a weekend away? Do we get on do we get a little Airbnb somewhere? Where would that be? Someplace drivable so we can take the dogs. I'm not going to put Gracie on a plane, and quite frankly, we can't afford to take a lot of frivolous trips and do that kind of stuff right now, How do we break the routine when there's so much that has to be done? What's that line that says, sometimes you do what you want to do, the rest of the times you do what you have to? Now, I'm in a pretty good position. I mean, Natalie and I both love what we do, but God, we're just on the fucking wheel. And we feel the sameness. And then we think, well, how do we break? There's got to be a cycle break. So this is a force of will. If we do it, we'll be glad we did it. What does that even look like? I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I'm going to cheat just a little bit because I'm going to Nashville for NanoCon. So I'll be able to get out and interact with people. It's hard for Natalie to come to things like that because we don't get to spend time really together. I'm engaged. I'm working, for the hosts. I'm at the table. I'm hanging out. We're getting ready for the speech and shooting videos. And so she and I don't get a lot of quality time unless we tack on a few extra days, which, we're usually not able to do for a lot of reasons. But we got to find a bride. I don't know. I'm drifting. I am drifting. But I know you felt this, right? You're on the wheel. How do we break out? You tell me. Robin is at 6:05. Robin, are you with me?
Yes, I am, Seth.
Welcome to the show.
Yes, I will be at NanoCon too, so I'll see you there. And we did the Ark protest here in Kentucky this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. It was hot, really hot.
For those who don't know what the Ark Encounter protest is, describe what that is for people.
Well, in Kentucky, we have a replica, supposedly. It's not really actually a boat anyway, but in Williamstown, Kentucky, that is supposed to be Noah's Ark, like a replica of Noah's Ark. They have, the dinosaurs there that were supposed to be on the boat, and it was a really nice time. We had a guy up on the hill filming us.
Was he with you, or was he with the Ark Encounter?
No, he was. I don't know who he was, but he he was doing a live stream of our protest, but he was definitely not with us. But we marched down. Have you ever been to the Ark protest? I didn't know if you had ever been or not.
Yeah, I attended one years ago, and I spoke. It was
okay.
I'll add to what you've already kind of set up here, if you don't mind, real fast. Ken Ham,
go ahead.
founder of Answers in Genesis, is a young Earth creationist who believes that the planet is younger than the Sumerian civilization. Okay, 6,000 years, because God said so. And he believes the literal story of Noah's Ark. So he built the Creation Museum, which is an oxymoron, which is a horrifying place in Kentucky. I did a video called Atheists at the Creation Museum. where I and a skeptics group in the area, we all went in and we toured it. And I mean, it's awesome. You know, you've got, it's a high dollar event. They got dinosaurs hanging out with Adam and Eve. You've got the declaration that the reason we have weeds in our gardens is because of human sin. There's an exhibit promoting incest. I mean, it's just amazing. So anyway, we came out of that and produced a video. And then he builds this $110,000 paperweight. I believe it's in Lexington, where it's supposedly an exact replica of Noah's Ark based on the dimensions of given in the Bible. Okay, so I went into
in Williamstown. The Ark is in Williamstown. I think the Creation Museum might be in Lexington.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Williamstown.
Okay.
And it's an exercise in hypocrisy, because when Ken Ham wants to get tax breaks for being a ministry, he calls it a nonprofit religious organization. And when he wants tourism money from the government, he calls it a business. So he's sort of double dipping. And Matt Dillahunty and I went and toured it. There's a video of that called Atheists at the Ark Encounter. And it's wacky. It's just bizarre to go into this place. And I think most tragically, we see a lot of these little homeschool groups going in, these small private school groups who are going in, and these wide-eyed children are looking around at velociraptors in cages and, you know, all of this crazy stuff. And they are being brainwashed, programmed to believe that this is true. I think this is going to hamstring them in many ways for decades to come, if not the rest of their lives. And so once a year, skeptics go out and do an outdoor protest just outside the entrance right off the highway. And they bring signs and cameras, and we have a platform, and there's a sound system. And I went out, and so you give a short presentation, and everybody's essentially saying to everyone on the highway, hey, check out the bullshit factory behind us and check out the bullshitter who put it all together and helps to run it. So that's what the Ark Encounter protest was. But it was a good time when I was there, and you're saying you had a good time as well?
Yes, we did. We had, Pangburn sponsored it, and then we had, the Kentucky Atheist was the one that put it on, Joe Roberts. And we had, of course, the Tri-State Freethinkers is probably who put it on when you were there.
Yeah.
They helped us, they're going to do it next year for the 10th anniversary, but they were just not planning on doing it this year because they've done it every year. But yeah, we had a good crowd. There's a sign that says Museum of Incest and Genocide, and the guy that filmed us was mad because he thought we were accusing the people of going in the Ark and committing genocide and incest. He wasn't getting what the reference was to it.
No.
He made a little.
That's not us.
Yeah.
Those were Old Testament characters that did that stuff. Huge confusion. Robin, thanks for letting us know what happened, and thanks for standing up for skepticism in Kentucky. I know they need you, okay?
Yeah, and I'll see you at NanaCon in a couple weeks.
I'll see you in a bit.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
So you walk into the Ark Encounter, and one of the first things you see is what looks like a puppy mill. And for those who don't know what a puppy mill is, they're horrifying realities where breeders, these immoral pet breeders for money, will take dogs and cage them in these tiny cages. And they're often massive. There might be 150 cages, and they're all grouped together, and they trap these animals in there, often for their entire lives in horrible conditions. And I saw one that had PVC pipe that ran all the way through it with little outlets in each cage. And that's how they gave them their drinking water. So they didn't even open the cage to fill up the water. So they just sort of piped a hose in, and that's how the water was filled. I don't know how the food was filled. And the dogs, we rescued little Henry years ago, and he had been in a cage, they thought, for 5 or 6 years. And when we got him out, I mean, it was just like You could tell it had affected him. He was the sweetest dog, but when he would get excited, he would only run in circles, small circles. And it's because he had spent his life confined in a box. And that's all he knew to do was run in circles. And the good news is once we gave him a loving home and opened up his world, those circles got a lot bigger. So he would start small, and then he would run around the perimeter of the living room, and then he would run through the kitchen, then he would run. So he was still running. He would always run one direction. He ran to his right, clockwise, but his circle got much bigger. But the puppy mills themselves, sometimes you see them on the news, these barbaric people will essentially leave these animals in the worst of conditions for $1. So when I walked into the Ark Encounter, I saw a puppy mill. It was this row of tiny cages, all grouped together, boxed together, and supposedly this is how they transported some of the animals for a year. Or were there eggs in them? It was just such a bizarre thing. And I think it was his way of trying to cover the sheer volume of creatures that would have had to have been on the Ark. Well, they were either really small or they were embryos. So we put them in the puppy mill cages and we stuck them here in these boxes. And then a year passed. That's the kind of shit he's been there. What is that sign? There's an actual sign in the Ark Encounter that says, I'm paraphrasing, if you can convince people that Noah's Ark isn't real, you can convince them that the Bible isn't true. And Matt and I took a picture in front of that and said, yeah, that's true. That's true. Forgive me, there's a garbage truck outside. Maybe you can hear it bleeding into the microphone as I talk about it. Go watch the video, Atheists at the Ark Encounter. I think you'll see Matt Dillahunty and me on the thumbnail image of the video. It runs about 8-10 minutes and it's wanky. And the best part is there's already freaking water damage on the outside of the Ark. So he's expecting people to believe that this thing, which is not an actual boat, it's a facade on the front, and there's a building, an actual office building that's the whole back of the structure. But he's expecting people to believe that this thing sort of traversed and handled seawater for up to a year without any trouble, while the actual Ark has water damage appearing on a whole side of the ship. Don't tell me that thing was seaworthy. It's crazy. Plus, nobody else on planet Earth owned a boat or was able to build a boat in the time required. The whole thing is insane. It's insane. Let's talk to area code 301. Hi. What do I call you?
Hi, my name is Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Him.
Welcome. What's on your mind?
I had a very satisfying career with the Food and Drug Administration, and one of the things I did was to advise medical device companies on how to comply with the law. And it became something I did on purpose when I ran into trouble trying to figure out how to solve some of these problems. I would get up from my computer, go for a walk, and find somebody to talk to about some unrelated topic. And 9 times out of 10, by the time I got back to my office, the answer was in my head.
Your brain simply needed a few minutes to process the information. Is that what I'm hearing?
Without me actively thinking on it. So the thinking happened in the background while I was actively engaged in a typical conversation. Hey, how's the weather outside? Or, hey, did you win that soccer game this last weekend?
That's interesting. So on the back burner, subconsciously, there might be some RAM being allocated to the conundrum in question. And then later on, you can access the results of the calculating that had been going on as you talked about pets, dinner, the weather, etc.
Because the active brain got out of the way of that other part of the brain that does that background thinking.
I may try that. I may try, if I have a problem, to back burner it and then go do something else where it's impossible for me to think about the other thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Anything else for us today?
Oh, no, just to thank you for having come into my life and helped me figure out all this shit so much. I'm 70 years old now, and I'm the happiest, most satisfied I've ever been in my life. So, and you're a part of it.
Oh, you're very kind. Well, it means a lot that you called and that you're a part of the community. Be safe, okay?
Yes, thank you, sir. Bye.
All right. See you later. Speaking of batshit claims, we were talking about the 6,000-year-old Earth and all of that stuff. Well, did you read that after the horrible, deadly floods in Texas, now we're seeing all kinds of conspiracy theories that are just bandying about left and right, many of them having to do with weather manipulation. Ryan Hall runs the weather channel called Ryan Hall Y'all. And it sounds like a punchline, but I'm telling you, this guy's awesome. Let me pull up his page real fast. Ryan Hall Y'all. I follow this guy whenever there's severe weather. He is an actual meteorologist who will do these long-form live streams whenever there is weather anywhere. And he's good, and he's got correspondence, for lack of a better word. He's got drone footage from the field. He's got people sending him information from all of the places he is reporting on, and he is legit. And he posted something that I felt was really good. And then I'm going to get into Marjorie Taylor Greene, okay, because how can I not? He posted this. He said, y'all, when it rains a lot, it floods. It's always been that way. Flooding has existed as long as rain has. It can destroy homes, wreck communities, and take lives. That's why we've built warning systems. That's why I do what I do. But lately, there's a rise in conspiracy theories about weather modification and government floods. These claims aren't just false, they're dangerous. They distract people from real preparedness and get in the way of saving lives. Please check your sources. You're being misled by folks who don't understand meteorology, or worse, don't care. Other meteorologists are coming forward to say this is weapons-grade batshittery. Proceed with caution. Well, I'll just read from Forbes as this story came to light. Always reliable is Miss Jewish Space Laser herself, Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia District 14. Published on the 7th of July, Marjorie Taylor Greene fuels government weather conspiracy after deadly Texas flood. Greene wrote in a Saturday post on X she would introduce legislation that bans the release of anything into the atmosphere for the express purpose of altering weather, temperature, climate, or sunlight intensity, saying, quote, no person, company, entity, or government should ever be allowed to modify our weather by any means possible. Greene did not reference the deadly Texas floods dominating the news that day, but said she has been working with the Legislative Council for months, writing this bill to make, quote, the dangerous and deadly practice of weather modification and geoengineering a felony offense. The Georgia Congresswoman said the bill would be similar to Florida's new law and makes cloud seeding and other weather modification activities illegal. Greene has a history of stoking conspiracies that a government deep state creates catastrophic weather events, including suggesting hurricanes have been engineered to hit Republican areas harder than those with more Democrats, and speculating that lasers spark wildfires. The conspiracy that weather's manipulated by forces other than nature has been repeatedly debunked amid an increase in dangerous weather caused by climate change. NOAA does not fund or participate in cloud seeding or other weather modification projects, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration writes on its website. Here is a meteorologist named Paul Delegato. This was posted this morning. Cloud seeding, cloud seeding, cloud seeding. Apparently, cloud seeding is now the cause of all major weather events. Texas floods, cloud seeding. Hurricane Milton, cloud seeding. Snow in the Florida Panhandle, cloud seeding. Let me set the record straight about cloud seeding. First thing first, cloud seeding has been done for decades. Operation Popeye was a cloud seeding mission to enhance the monsoon during the Vietnam War, though historians will tell you that it is debatable whether or not it had any impact on the outcome of the war. Cloud seeding is not geoengineering. Cloud seeding is a small-scale weather modification that aims to enhance rain or snow from clouds. It cannot make rain from clear skies. It cannot end droughts. It involves introducing tiny particles, often silver iodide, into specific types of clouds to act as nuclei for ice crystal formation. These particles help water droplets in the clouds to freeze and grow, eventually falling as precipitation. It is done using small planes or even cannons on the ground. Cloud seeding does not make contrails in the sky. Well, then, see, it could have made the floods in Texas. No, it didn't. Think scale. Cloud seeding is done in a cloud or a group of clouds. Those clouds with additional nuclei from the cloud seeding can drop an additional 10% to maybe 20% more rain or snow in a tiny area. Think of it this way. There is no need for cloud seeding over Florida. We get enough rain. It would not be worth the time or money, which is why the Florida anti-geoengineering bill was a waste of time. But let's say we hired a cloud seeding company to seed clouds over Tampa. Small planes would take off from a local airport and would drop silver iodide into a tall cloud that was about to become a shower or thunderstorm. That shower or thunderstorm would have extra nuclei to produce more rain. How much more rain? Maybe 10 to 20%. So instead of a thunderstorm dropping 1 inch of rain over downtown Tampa, the storm may end up dropping 1.1 inch or maybe as much as 1.2 inches of rain. That is it. And the cloud seeding over Tampa would not result in any noticeable increase in rainfall over St. Petersburg or Clearwater or Lakeland. It is small scale weather modification. Okay. Then if it increases rain or snow only 10 to 20%, then why bother? Because areas out west primarily are desperate for rain, and even the hope for rain is sometimes worth the expense. Cloud seeding is boring. The chances of you or I ever being impacted in any way by cloud seeding is pretty much zero. China has a big cloud seeding program, but if it was that good, why did they have to truck in and make artificial snow for the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing? Dubai has a big cloud seeding program, and the big flood there a few years ago was not caused by cloud seeding. Like the storm in Texas, it was predicted to occur days in advance. Yes, even in Dubai, there are big flood events on occasion. Some of you are saying, whatever, I do not want anyone messing with the weather. You know what? You certainly have the right to feel that way. Any weather modification or future studies research projects on geoengineering should be openly discussed and should not be done in secret. Watch the meteorologist. Watch the meteorologist and listen to actual scientists. It is amazing how much people can learn. "403, hi, thanks for waiting. Who's this?"
Hey, this is Ron. How are you doing, Seth?
I'm good, Ron. Let's talk. What's on your mind?
Well, I was at the We Can Reason conference in Calgary when you came, and I was it's a topic about it's about Trump, and I know you'd kind of done the whole store there and all the merchandise he's grifting his followers. Do you think that the midterm elections is going to be enough to turn the tide?
Well, honestly, I would love for the 2024 presidential election to be held right now. I'm convinced that the moderate MAGAs, the people who were kind of like, oh yeah, he's a businessman, and then they kind of did their own thing, they kind of checked out.
Yeah.
I think they're having their oh shit moment, and I think even a few hardcore MAGAs whose lives are being upended are going, oh crap, like this isn't what I voted for, and you and I are like, oh yes, it is. I think it wouldn't even be close.
Yeah.
The problem is, I have two problems. One, the public has no memory. Secondly, I think, what's that line? A person is smart, but people are stupid. People are stupid. I mean, the people who are jumping onto every batshit chemtrail, cloud seeding, whatever conspiracy, deep state, vaccine, all this other crazy stuff. Those are the voters that have helped to get us in this position in the first place. I also think that all it will take is for one tiny incidental bump in the stock market for people to get amnesia. And they're like, oh, well, things are a little better, I guess, status quo, whatever. And then they click the box. I worry that there will be something that may have nothing to do with Trump, or it's like blind squirrel finds nut, right? He just accidentally happens to get something right. And the public develops amnesia about a decade worth of atrocity and the assault on decency and the attack of the Constitution and the cruelty and the concentration camps and alligator Alcatraz and everything else. And they're like, oh, yeah, maybe things aren't so bad. And they just go back to the status. I worry about people. I also am frustrated because Democrats have a history of pulling defeat out of the jaws of victory. You know what I mean? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, when I look at it, and I mean, his last press conference, you know, and when he's in the cabinet with all his sycophants around him, when he was questioned on the Epstein files, you know, and that's a whole debacle now too, right? Where Pam Bondi's saying she never had the list. Well, that's interesting. You clearly told Fox News you had it, and now they don't have it anymore. And then he deflects and says, are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? Are you serious? We got a Texas flood that's happening here. And, you know, but, you know, you're not talking about our successes. And then he starts going on about the medallions on the lamps or the lights up above and then the gold paint. And he said, oh, you know, you can't really paint that trim gold. There's not enough gold. You know, you just can't get a paint that looks gold enough. And Fox News even cut away from him because of the insidious rant that he was going on. And when Pam Bondi was answering the question about the Jeffrey Epstein files, she's looking at him, deferring to him while she's answering the question and making sure that he approves. To me, it's like, man, Spider-Man should come up with a movie and call it, and with Kingpin.
Yeah,
because I think that's where America is going. Like it's Kingpin ruling the USA. It's insanity.
And the same people who were like, Biden has pronounced cognitive decline are totally looking the other way when he goes off on windmills causing whale cancer and dishwasher water and how water falls from the sky and how he passed the cognitive test where he had to remember the words man, woman, camera, TV, or whatever it was. You know, but I'll tell you this. I do think the midterms seem like 1,000 years away, don't they? But
forever.
I do think that if we survive, that a Congress that isn't totally an invertebrate Congress might finally, since the Supreme Court is now failing us left and right, I think that may be a stopgap and help to prevent at least some of this from going through until we can, I don't know, get him out of there and he has a massive coronary. Look, don't judge me, okay? Don't judge me, Ron.
Yeah.
But
I'm not.
I don't judge me. I've never thought in my life I would ever do anything like this. I am going to have I don't even drink. I'm going to have a custom champagne glass made. And I'm going to put just 2 words on it. He's dead. And when that day comes and he finally kicks it, I'm going to go and I'm going to fill it up with something delicious and I'm going to have a little toast.
Yeah.
I can't believe I feel that much resentment, but the day he dies, there will be a party. There will be dancing and festivities in my circle. Does that make you think less of me, Ron?
No, not at all. Because
okay.
I mean, it runs across my mind all the time. It's like, can't somebody take him out somehow?
Yeah.
Isn't there someone around?
No, I don't want that. I don't think martyring him. I don't think threatening the president. I totally have, and I know you didn't mean it that way, but
I know. It's just that the stuff that he is causing, like it gets me so, my blood starts to boil with all these immigrants that he's detaining and then the lies that he spews about them and the lies that he spews to his base. Yeah. And he's just sticking the knife in their backs and he doesn't care. He's a true sociopath.
I'd like cause and effect to kick in.
He does not care.
Yeah, I would like him to be stuck in one of the concentration camps that he is now endorsing and promoting.
Alligator Alcatraz.
I put him in there. Thanks so much for being a part of the conversation. We'll see you later, okay?
Take care, sir.
All right, see you later. I just released a video. You know what? This will be a good way to leave you. If you've followed the YouTube channel, you probably already seen this, but I'm going to go ahead and play it for you here, and then the audio for the podcast audience, the audio podcast audience, which is actually much bigger than the YouTube audience. This may be new for you, but I had thoughts about what's been happening under the Trump regime as we see the funding now of one of the world's biggest secret police departments, right? Immigration and Customs Enforcement are really a terrorist organization. And I'm surrounded by people like the guy in Natalie's Facebook feed who was like, he actually said, I don't care what happens to anybody anywhere if they're not American. And he sort of gives you that America born and bred. I was born here, I'll die here, America true and blue, right? And I had thoughts on that about what it means to be born American. If you're here in the United States and you don't have any reason to worry about immigration and customs enforcement arresting or deporting you, I am glad for you. I'm glad for both of us, really. And I'm humbled at how lucky we are. You and I have no idea what it's like to have to live in fear. Fear that a Mexican drug cartel might hijack us on the highway and take everything we've got, maybe kidnap us or our children for ransom, or abduct them and traffic them for drugs, rape, whatever. You and I are not among 40% of Nigeria's population that are trying to survive on $2 a day. You and I have available food to keep our families from going hungry, as families in Somalia, Yemen, the Republic of Congo, Haiti, Ethiopia, elsewhere, they are seeing themselves and their kids starving to death, often because oppressor governments are hoarding the resources that everybody needs to survive. Every year in the U.S., 1,400 people starve to death. But South Sudan sees over 32,000. Now, one is too many, but 22 times the rate of what we experience here. It makes me realize how fortunate I am. You and I aren't dipping buckets into unsanitary rivers to drink water that might kill us with cholera. We turn on the taps and we buy our bottled water. We don't even think about it. Even the most desperate among Americans still have access to better health care and medicines than much of the rest of the world. We've got our issues, many issues, but show me a place that doesn't have an emergency room required by law to treat us in a crisis. Compare our doctors' offices and operating rooms to the failed hospitals of places like Venezuela, where patient beds are filthy, physicians are hard to come by, and medicines are even more scarce. So many people outside of our borders are born into nearly unlivable conditions. They're forced to survive in shelters that are made out of old blankets. They sleep on the dirt. They exist almost completely exposed to the rains, the winds, the sun, the predators. Schools are often a luxury, yet mothers and fathers are desperately working to try and have their children educated, even if that means the kids have to sit at a desk in a brick box in the blistering heat of the middle of the day. You and I don't know what that's like. We haven't experienced those terrible realities, and I'm glad. We're lucky. Our accidents of birth landed us as infants in the U.S. By nothing we said or did, we were born into a better life. And it's in the light of that good fortune that I have come to see better how strange it is for someone to say they're born and bred American and proud of it. How strange is it not to look at the suffering people inside and outside of our borders with grief in our hearts, and to give those borders such power, especially with the understanding that our world's dividing lines were subjectively drawn by men, and even more often than meritoriously defining our nations, which is fine, they also too often set us up to feel superior and dismissive about those who were not born into our cradles of privilege. You and I don't know what it's like to hold our children close in case masked ICE agents smash into our houses, homes that we've known for decades, stripping husbands away from wives, fathers away from sons, mothers away from daughters, many of whom may never speak in person again. Many of whom were guilty of what? Only desperately trying to survive. They worked hard day and night. They lived peacefully, and they prayed every day they could continue to escape the guns and knives of the cartels, the contaminated drinking water, the extortionist dirty cops, unsafe medicines, unsustainably small bowls of cheap food, beds without mattresses, disasters with no recovery programs, ratty clothes, no shoes, and the peril that comes when you're not born lucky like you and I were born lucky. Are these people all of the horrible things that they have been called? It has been politically convenient to blanket blame the outsider for our problems. Immigrants, legally here and otherwise, they have been tagged as everything from vermin to rapists and murderers. But in my life, I've seen a whole lot more headlines about the monsters already among us, many of them born among us, who are the beneficiaries of that strange luck that comes with a certain birth certificate, skin color, or sexual orientation. The human tendency is to turn a blind eye to our in-group because it's instinctive to vilify the out-group. It's us and them, American and non-American, clean and dirty, good and evil. And yet, we are all the human condition. Now, nobody's saying borders should be a free-for-all. Nobody's saying the border system isn't terrible and can't be a whole lot better. But the solutions to our problems do not fit on a meme, or in a campaign slogan, or on a t-shirt. I'm convinced that we must realize that born American isn't the flex many people think it is. It's just what happened. And we must ask ourselves what we would do, how many dangerous mountains we would climb, how many deadly rivers we would cross, how many desperate measures we would take, how far would we go just to survive, to help our kids survive, and maybe, just maybe, carve out a way to live a better life in peace and safety. The reason so many are horrified that ICE has become a kind of American Gestapo is because the whole idea of ICE raids is one of dismissiveness, dehumanization, and cruelty. Imagine the masked men waiting for you outside of your appearance in a court of law. You get finished, you walk out the door, and suddenly you are grabbed. You're in the back of a van. Your loved ones are screaming and crying. And without any due process, you have become both less than human and a punchline for people who are cheering your abduction. You become an anonymous face in a concentration camp, hoping that you won't be forgotten. You become a political football tossed around in a game that you never asked to play. You face decades, potential decades of isolation away from the people you love, potential torture by guards who are not there to protect you, and a world of suffering that's marked by memeable signs like Alligator Alcatraz, places where tourists will stop to take Facebook photos. You and I woke up this morning without any worry of any of that happening to us. But we have to ask ourselves, why? What does it mean to be born American? What does it mean to be human and have humanity? And for those who hold to a peace-loving faith tradition, how might this culture all around us have treated Jesus, the brown-skinned immigrant whose best teachings were about loving your neighbor, kindness, forgiveness, service, humility, rejecting hate, not loving money, doing unto others, right? I mean, whether or not you believe in that Jesus, those that do should ask themselves if the Jesus Christ who drove the money changers out of the temple and spoke in 1 John 3:17 about giving to brothers and sisters in need, how would that Jesus be treated by people today? And how might that Jesus feel about a kidnapping culture of celebrated cruelty that has valued and devalued flesh and blood human beings based only on what side of a line they happen to be born on? There is an old line that was originally attributed to Sinclair Lewis. It has never been verified, but I still find it interesting. The saying says this: when fascism comes to America, it will be wrapped in the flag and carrying a cross. Should the flag and the cross stand for cruelty? Or are we, all 8 billion of us on this planet, are we fellow travelers who deserve mercy, empathy, consideration, respect, safety, opportunity, regardless? To see ourselves as citizens of the United States, but more importantly, citizens of the world. Maybe that should be the American dream. And with that, I will leave you to it. It's always an honor to spend time with you. I'll see you later.